There are over 70 unique armors in Minecraft dungeons, but they're all practically worthless if they don't have the right enchantments. And with over 45 different armor enchantments in the game, it can be tricky to find the best combination. What's up guys, Mattitude here, and today I will be putting every armor enchantment into a tier list to find which enchantments you should be using in your builds. And disclaimer, again, this is a list that is totally based on my opinion, so if you strongly agree or disagree with anything on this list, be sure to let me know in the comment section below and we will settle it there. Okay guys, here we are again at another enchantment tier list. You guys really enjoyed my last one, and so I'll be making a lot more. So if you want to see any more of those videos, be sure to subscribe. Starting us off today, we have Acrobat. With Acrobat, it reduces the cooldown time between rolls, starting at 15% for tier 1 all the way up to 45% for tier 3. This is a pretty solid enchantment, knowing that there's a lot of other enchantments in here that rely heavily on rolling, which is why I'm going to be placing this in the B category. Up next, we have Bag of Souls. Bag of Souls increases the maximum number of souls that can be carried, starting with 50% for tier 1 all the way up to 150% for tier 3. Now this is a pretty solid enchantment for soul builds, but I know not everyone runs a soul build, and because of that, I'm going to be placing this in the C category. After that, we have Beast Boss. With Beast Boss, it increases the amount of damage dealt by your pets, up to 60% for tier 3. Now I don't know about you, but I love running pets. My Iron Golem does a ton of damage, and it's like my best friend when playing the game. So because of that, I'm placing this up in the A category. Up next, we have Beast Burst. With Beast Burst, using a healing potion causes an explosion at the pet's location, dealing damage to mobs around it. This is not that great of an enchantment. First, you shouldn't be using your health potion all that often, especially if you have good healing gear. And second, you're not going to be able to control exactly where your pets are when this happens, so it's going to be just not great to use all around. So because of that, I'm putting this in the F category. Up next, we have Beast Surge. With Beast Surge, using health potions boost pet's attack and movement speed for 10 seconds. Now this is similar to Beast Burst, but a lot better to use in my opinion. Pair this with something like Beast Boss, and you can have a pet that it just basically does the level for you. But again, you probably won't be using your health potion all too often, which is why I'm going to be putting this in the D category. After that, we have Burning. With Burning, every half second, there's going to be damage to all nearby enemies. Now, I just wish that this damage was a lot more than what it is, but it's still cool to see your enemies burn right next to you. Because of this, I'm putting it in the B category. The opposite of Burning, we have Chilling. With Chilling, you emit a blast every 2 seconds that reduces the movement and attack speed of nearby enemies for 1 second. Now this is such a good armor enchantment to have in my opinion, and I always try to put it on my gear if possible. It's so useful to have your enemies slow down both movement and attack speed, and it procs so often. It's essentially a must, which is why I am putting Chilling all the way up in the S tier. Up next, we have Cooldown. With Cooldown, you reduce the cooldown time between use of artifacts up to 37% for tier 3. Pair this enchantment with a lot of fast proccing artifacts and you can be pretty much unstoppable. Although I don't use it that much because I think there's a lot of other enchantments out here that might be a little bit better, which is why I'm putting it in the B category. Up next, we have Cowardice. With Cowardice, you deal increased range and melee damage while at full health, up to 40% extra damage at full health for tier 3. I really like this enchantment because if you have good healing, which you will probably have at the end of the game, you will be always having this proc. And because of this, I'm putting this up in the A category. Up next, we have Death Barter. With Death Barter, the first set of emeralds collected are stored and then spent to save the player from death. Now, I'm not a big fan of this enchantment. You would only really need to do this if you're really stuck on a level, but then you would have to go find a piece of gear that has this enchantment and then put it on to help you get through this level. I mean, that is just a lot of work. I think there's a lot of other better enchantments out there, and because of this, I'm putting it in the E category. Up next, we have Deflect. Deflect grants a small chance to deflect incoming projectiles, up to 45% chance at tier 3. Now this is definitely a pretty solid enchantment, especially if you're going against a lot of rangers or something like skeletons. You're going to be decreasing a lot of your damage. And because of that, I'm going to be putting this in the C category. Up next, we have Electrified. With electrified, rolling zaps 3 nearby enemies with lightning bolts dealing damage. Personally, I'm not too big of a fan of rolling enchantments, but I can see people using this a lot, especially if you pair it with a few other things that help increase rolling, and because of that, I'm putting it in the B category. Next up, we have Explorer. With Explorer, you regain a small amount of health for every 100 blocks explored on the map, up to 1% for tier 3. I do not like this enchantment really at all. I think the health gained is very, very minimal. There's a lot of other better things to regain health in this game, and because of that, I'm putting it in the F category. After that, we have Final Shout. When the player's health drops below 25%, all artifacts are used. This one seems like it's going to be really OP or something, but I mean, it's really dependent on what artifacts you use. And I mean, if you were looking for something like life saving like that, just do Death Barter. And because of that, I'm putting it right next to Death Barter in tier E. Up next, we have Fire Focus. With Fire Focus, it really just increases your fire damage output. It's a must for fire builds, but if you're not really into fire builds, you just won't want to use this. And because of that, I'm putting it in the D category. After that, we have Fire Trail. With Fire Trail, rolling creates a trail of fire that deals damage to mobs for 4 seconds. This seems really cool on paper, but if you're already moving through the level, you're going to be more focused on killing mobs in front of you, not behind you, and because of that, I'm putting it in the E category. Next up, we have Food Reserves. With Food Reserves, using a healing potion also creates a random food item. Now, this is just increased health, I guess, at the end of the day when you use a healing potion, but I feel like if you use a healing potion, you're already going to have enough health. Why would you need more? And because of that, I'm putting this in the D category. Up next, we have Frenzied. With Frenzied, your attack speed is increased while at less than half health. This is really OP if you are always at less than half health, but if you have a good build, you will not be cruising through the level at less than half health for any extended period of time. So because of that, I'm putting this in the E category. Up next, we have Gravity Pulse. With Gravity Pulse, a blast occurs every 3 seconds that pulls nearby enemies closer. This might be useful with certain type of weapons that you really need to get into your range, but other than that, it's nothing spectacular, and it can be quite annoying if you just want to run through the level. And because of this, I'm putting this in the C category. Up next, we have Health Synergy. With Health Synergy, you regain a small amount of health when activating any artifact, up to 5% for tier 3. This can definitely help increase healing, and if you don't have any other good healing options, this might be pretty useful, especially if you're using artifacts that you proc a lot, like Boots of Swiftness. Because of this, I'm putting this also in category C. Up next, we have Life Boost. With Life Boost, you increase the max health up to 33% each time you die. I know there's a glitch where for some reason you can have a crazy amount of health with this, but they have since patched that and basically made this not super worth it. Because of this, I'm putting this in the D category. Up next, we have Lightning Focus. Again, this is like the other focus enchantments. If you have a lightning build, it's a must, but if not, you're not ever going to use this. Because of this, I'm putting this in the D category. Up next, we have Luck of the Sea. With Luck of the Sea, you have increased luck at getting unique rare drops, up to 30% at tier 3. Now, this is a must if you're looking to get a certain type of unique on a certain mission, and it's just really cool to have increased luck and see all those uniques drop. Because of this, I am putting this in the A category because it's a must for certain builds, depending on what you want to do. Up next, we have Lucky Explorer. With Lucky Explorer, you have a chance to spawn emeralds with every block explored. This is great if you're trying to farm emeralds, and because of this, I'm also going to put this in the B category. And because of this, I'm going to be putting it in the B category. Up next, we have Multi-Roll. This enchantment is pretty straightforward. It grants extra rolls up to 4 for tier 3. This is a pretty solid enchantment, especially since there's a lot of other things that rely on rolling. And if you have 4 extra rolls, that's going to help out a ton. It's very universal, which is why I'm putting it in the A category. Up next, we have Poison Focus. It's a must for poison builds, but if you're not going to have a poison build, then it's not worth using, putting it in the D category. Up next, we have Potion Barrier. With Potion Barrier, you take 90% less damage for a short duration when you use the healing potion, up to 9 seconds for tier 3. This is very useful in stressful situations. When you proc this, it essentially turns you into a tank that you soak up all the damage. It's amazing. I am putting this in the A category. Up next, we have Prospector. With Prospector, you find more emeralds on fallen enemies up to 300% for tier 3. This is such a good enchantment, and it's basically the enchantment to have if you're farming emeralds. Because of this, I'm putting this all the way up in the S tier. Up next, we have Protection. Protection is a very, very good enchantment. Essentially, it just reduces the damage you take up to 15% for tier 3. It's amazing. It just boosts your defense, and because of that, I'm also putting this up in the S tier. Up next, we have Reckless. With Reckless, you decrease your health by 40% while increasing your melee damage up to 90%. Now, if you have a solid defensive build and you can take that hit to health, you will be doing crazy amounts of damage, but you do have that risk of dying pretty quickly if something goes down. Because of that, I am putting it just in the A tier. Up next, we have Recycler. With Recycler, being hit by damage inflicting projectiles occasionally crafts a small quiver of arrows. This is very useful in the tower where you might not have a whole lot of arrows, but other than that, it's pretty niche because you'll be in a pretty good shape most of the time. Because of this, I'm putting it in the C category. Up next, we have Rush. With Rush, you increase your movement speed for 1 second after taking damage up to a 90% increase. This is great if you want to get around places very quickly because you'll be always taking damage essentially, but there's a lot of other things to use in the game that also helps with speed, and because of that, it's really kind of niche and not needed. I'm putting it in the E category. Up next, we have Shadow Blast. With Shadow Blast, leaving shadow form triggers a powerful blast that damages nearby mobs. This is super niche, and you'll never use it if you don't ever go into shadow form. Because of this, I'm putting it in the F category. Up next, we have Shadow Surge. With Shadow Surge, mobs defeated while in shadow form grant extra souls. I would say that this is even more niche than Shadow Blast, and because of that, I'm putting it all the way in the F category as well. Up next, we have Snowball. With Snowball, you fire a snowball at nearby enemies every few seconds, briefly stunning it. You can have this proc every single second if you have it upgraded all the way to tier 3, and I absolutely love this enchantment. It's so useful to have nearby enemies stunned all the time. I always try to have this on my gear whenever possible, which is why I'm putting this all the way up in the S tier. Up next, we have Soul Focus. With Soul Focus, you essentially just increase your soul damage output. I think this is a little bit more useful than the other focus enchantments, which is why I'm going to be placing it in the C category. Up next, we have Soul Speed. With Soul Speed, gathering a soul causes 1% stacking movement speed boost for a short duration. This can be increased for up to 4 seconds for tier 3. You'll be getting a lot of souls if you're running a soul build, so this is a great way to just fly through levels. Because of that, I'm putting this up in the B category. Up next, we have Speed Synergy. This is another speed type of enchantment where whenever you activate an artifact, you gain a 20% movement speed for a short time up to 3 seconds for tier 3. There's just so many things in this game that help with speed, and this is just very niche, and I don't think it should take up an enchantment slot, which is why I'm putting it up in the, or down in the E category. Up next, we have Surprise Gift. With Surprise Gift, using a healing potion sometimes creates a random consumable. This can be very useful in the tower when you might not have a whole lot of good gear and you're really relying on potions to get you through the level. Because of this, I'm going to be putting it in the B category. Up next, we have Swift-Footed. With Swift-Footed, rolling increases movement speed for 3 seconds. This is another rolling enchantment, and it can be pretty useful paired with a few other items or enchantments, and because of this, I'm putting it also in the B category. After this, we have Thorns. With Thorns, taking damage deals damage back to the attacker up to 200% of damage received for tier 3. This is a very solid enchantment. It's going to increase your damage output, and because of this, I'm putting it up in the A category. Up next, we have Tumblebee. With Tumblebee, you have a chance of summoning a bee by your side every time you roll. I don't typically use bees as a pet, but hey, if you really like bees, this is the enchantment for you, but it's not for me. I'm putting it in the C category. Up next is we have 3 enchantments that are only found on certain types of gear built in. Up first, we have Environmental Protection. Environmental Protection is found on rugged climbing gear, and essentially it just helps protect from certain environmental damage like fire and ice. It's pretty solid, but since it's pretty rare to come by, only found on 1 piece of gear, I'm putting it in the D category. Up next, we have Emerald Shield. Emerald Shield is only found in opulent armor. With Emerald Shield, you are invulnerable on Emerald Collection. It's very overpowered. It's pretty nice, but since it's pretty hard to find because it's only on one set of gear, I'm putting it in the B category. And last but not least, we have Thrive Under Pressure enchantment. With Thrive Under Pressure, you take less damage when swarmed, and it's only found on Shulker armor. Now me and this enchantment go back, and we have some beef because one time I was in the tower, maybe the first time playing the tower, I switched to some Shulker armor thinking that this enchantment is going to be super good, and I died instantly. It felt like it didn't do anything. Because of that, I'm throwing this all away in the F category. Well, that is it. Here is the final tier list for every armor enchantment in Minecraft Dungeons. Let me know in the comments below what you guys think. Do you agree or disagree with anything on this list? And if you want to see more videos like this, be sure to subscribe. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.